Another edition of the Living the Dream podcast. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever it is, wherever you're listening. Thank you so much. It's Beto Duran, as always. Thanks for the support, rate, review, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you so much. This one isn't live because I don't know when I'm going to release it. So let me give you the backstory. I've told you guys that on the podcast that I'm doing one every single Monday. Well, today I'm recording this on Friday because today's guest is super busy. This is the time of year where she is flying all over the country, normally doing a bunch of different stuff. But with the baseball playoffs going on, schedules are hard. And I could have said, yeah, you know what, I'll just skip it. But I told you, the listeners, the audience, that I'm going to keep consistent, keep it going. And it's fun. I've been looking forward to this one for a while. This is a young lady who I didn't know. But now has become a good friend of mine. Talked with her almost daily, not even about sports or work or anything like that. Just more like, hey, what's up? How you doing? Everything good? Blah blah blah. You know when you meet good people and you just like, damn, that's a good person to have around you, and like you surrounding your circle, even though she's I think like 10, 15 years younger than me. I'm not too sure, but she's really cool, and I think you're going to love her story. As I've said on the podcast, I'm diversifying it. I went back and looked. I'm like, damn, all the people in the beginning were all my friends, the writers, the broadcasters, had some politicians on, had the comedians on, trying to expand. And as I say on Living the Dream, everybody has their own path. Everybody has their own journey, and everybody's dream is different. Heck, I'm inside a garage right now during this pandemic, throwing up t-shirts and making it look like a swap meet because I want to keep on chasing this dream. Is it going to go anywhere? Who knows? But I'm having fun doing it. And now this little garage studio has become part of my CBS fantasy football picks. And my boss actually told me on Sunday, hey, can we just do your CBS show with Jim Hill from your studio? I'm like, dude, it's not a studio. It's a garage door with a car next to me and t-shirts, and it looks like a tianguis, but it's just fun. You adapt, you move on, and that's what today's guest has done in her career when I've talked to her. Now, if you look over my shoulder, you're going to see a shirt that says "Play Like a Champion" today, right? Notre Dame. You're thinking Rudy, right? Nah. I, in 8th grade, was given a book by my brother called God, Football, Notre Dame by Father... Oh, my goodness, what was his name? Oh, my goodness. I gotta research it. But it made a big impact because I was a big Notre Dame fan as a kid, and as Beto Gomez, who our unofficial researcher of the show, is gonna get mad at me because he's probably screaming it right now. Oh my goodness! The book was written by Theodore Hesburgh. That's what it was. Theodore Hesburgh, God, Country, Notre Dame. I read that in 8th grade, and I always tell myself, one day I'm gonna go to Notre Dame. I'm going to go to a game. So 5 years ago, I went to Notre Dame. And who was there? Today's guest. Aileen Villarreal is joining us. And Aileen, I'm going to pull up the picture right now. There it is. We are at Notre Dame Stadium. Look at that.
South Bend, Indiana.
Yeah.
Freezing our butts off.
Yeah, they were playing USC, and I'm an SC fan too. I don't care, but dude, I'm at Notre Dame. I got to get that shirt on. I got to get a scarf. I don't even know where the scarf is at, but it's one of my most prized possessions because I bought that Play Like a Champion shirt at the bookstore. Mind you, that shirt is a medium. I'm an XL. I squeezed into that shirt. It was the only one left that had Play Like a Champion today. That's all I wanted to do. I wanted to buy a sign. They didn't have that, but I could order it on Amazon, but no, I have to get it from the store.
You have to get it there at the store.
Exactly. Aileen Villarreal, that intro, I know that was pretty cool. You know, you're all excited. You are today's guest on Living the Dream. Aileen is the director of PR for... Director of PR and Client Services for ISE Baseball. Aileen, what does that mean? Speak English to me.
Oof. It means, first off, thank you very much, Beto, for having me on. I'm honored. Thank you very much. And your setup is awesome. Okay?
Right.
So don't downplay it.
Oh, no. This is big time. You know how many free shirts I've been getting from people? Like, people are sending me shirts to put up there. That sign was made. That sign was made by a listener. I'm like, that's awesome.
Look at it. It looks super cool. It's
right.
Yeah. Next to the Play Like a Champion today.
Yeah. There you go.
Perfecto. So what do I do? It's a lot. I mean, obviously PR and client services, I mean, I handle the PR side so my agency represents ISE. We represent baseball athletes, also football, NFL, and NBA. I'm focused only on MLB. So for the guys that I work with, I'm out there just obviously they all have like their media relations departments at their respective teams, but I'm kind of like just trying to do more PR outreach for the guys that that want to do that, because not everybody wants to do additional PR.
There you go.
So I'm the lead for that at my agency for our baseball clients. On the client services side, I mean, it's really helping these guys. I'm more focused on the Latinos on that end, just because I speak Spanish, as you know. So I help our agents a lot with our Latino clients, with their families. Just really, I mean, on the agency side, I come from. We'll get into that later, but as you know, I come from the team side. But on the agency side, you're just really helping these guys on a personal level, like with anything kind of that comes up. On top of like helping that, trying to get them PR opportunities, marketing opportunities, just everything that's out there. So yes, that's my title, but it's a lot. It's a lot of different things. It's a lot of fun just because it's every day is different. You're working with a lot of different guys from all over the place, their families, really getting to know them. Like I said, and I mean, I'm working for guys that play, with guys that play a sport. So, and a sport that I grew up really loving. So it's cool. It's a very cool, it's a cool gig.
That was a very professional answer. I wouldn't expect anything less from you. And stop that. No more professional answers from you, okay, Aileen? I know you. You got a cool personality. You're legit. You're a trailblazer. You're one of the few that's out there doing it. So, yes. So for those of you listening, you're like, wow, this is a very professional person. She's super professional. But when you're around me, you're going to go open it up. Right, Aileen? Let's go.
Of course.
No.
So, champion today.
Exactly. But no, you have a very important role. And we're not going to get into like the day in, day out of what it is that you do. You're a PR person. You are very important for your clients and what you do. But let's get back to the background. Do you remember when we met?
The first time, was it at Dodger Stadium?
Yup.
In 2014, right? I think I got inducted into the Latino All-Star Hall. Latino All-Stars, right?
You did. So Aileen
and
grew up.
Like, damn, I just met everybody here. This is cool. Like,
yeah.
Because I didn't know anybody here I had a bit, obviously I was in Detroit. And there's Latinos in Detroit, but there's not really like Latinos in the media in Detroit. There's not really Spanish speaking media outlets over there. There's a few, but it's not like LA.
You were working for the Detroit Tigers at the time.
Yes.
So it was Dodger Stadium, and you grew up in Huntington Park, Monterey Park, and you went to Cantwell Sacred Heart, right? Montebello.
Montebello, yeah.
Montebello.
Huntington Park, and then Montebello. Yeah.
All right. There you go. Cantwell Sacred Heart, All-Star, right?
Cantwell Sacred Heart, 2-time CIF champion, softball. Woo!
See, that's the attitude I like right there. There you go. And then from Cantwell, you go to Notre Dame.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But the day we met, so I knew, as reported at ESPN, it was like, I was told always early on, always introduce yourself to the visiting team PR person. Not that you're going to need them that day, but just out of professional courtesy, because you're going to be around them, and eventually you're going to need them for later down the road. So instead of being like, oh, I need this right now, like, oh, hey, you actually said hello one time. So I'd always go whenever a new team was in town and talk to them. And with Detroit, they had never been to Dodger Stadium during my time. So I'm like, okay, cool. So I look at the Tigers traveling. They give you the sheets of who's traveling, who's the PR person. And I see a Latina name, and I'm like what? Like, for real? Like, and it's not like Gomez, Sanchez, it's Villarreal, right? Like, I'm like, oh, okay, this is real deal. Yeah, and I kid you not, I thought it might have been, this is just me being me. I'm like, oh, she probably married a Latino. It's probably a white lady who married a Latino who's working for the team. So I was like, all right, let me go introduce myself, because you were the only person traveling. You were on the dugout side. And I'm like, hey, I see the tag. I'm like, oh. Like, okay, this 12-year-old, because you look really young. You still look, I don't even know how old you are, but you are young. And I introduced myself to you, and we start talking, and you're like, oh, no, actually, I'm from Montebello. I'm like, the hell you doing in Detroit? Like, how? What? And then you're the director of PR, and for the people behind the scenes, teams usually travel one person who's in charge of PR for the entire team on road trips, and it's usually an old, grizzled, salty white guy. And to see you, I'm like, this is wrong. So we started talking, and you're like, dude, I'm so happy to be back in LA. I haven't been here in years. And we had a vibe going back and forth. It was cool, good energy. You're like, I miss Mexican food. There's no tortillas in Detroit. And I'm like, damn. So Ivan Carrasco, who worked for the Dodgers too, we met, we talked, and I think all the like Latinos there, and we had the joke of the Latino Media All-Stars. I'm like, dude, you're in. You're in the All-Stars right then and there. You got thrown into the All-Stars. You got jumped in. You were good. And after that, we become friends.
The paperwork. I was in.
That was it. But your journey, okay, you go to Notre Dame, right? And you told me the story of how you got into baseball. Your first internship out of college was where, Aileen?
So, I feel like I have to start with at Notre Dame first.
Oh, go ahead. We got plenty of time.
Just because it was a big part of it.
Okay.
So when I was at Notre Dame, I originally wanted to work in like film. Film's one of my majors, like film with a concentration in TV. And I mean, I'm like a movie weirdo. Like I love movies. Growing up, like I kind of wanted to, I wanted to work in movies. But I've always been into sports. But growing up, you don't really. This is one thing that like I really I don't know. I'm trying to figure out ways to, I guess, try to reach out more to the next generations, right? Because when you're growing up in places like we did, you don't really realize like, oh man, like I can do that, like I could be in PR, I can do that. You don't really realize like, oh, there's a whole staff like of people working like to put this game on, like to just
you just don't know
the scenes. And even though you don't know, and even though I was I had this movie, like when I got to Notre Dame, I saw flyers for the student manager program at Notre Dame. And I'm like, I played sports my whole life. My parents were very much like, for us, like, go to private school, play sports, because they understood that was a big part of like, your development and just that kind of thing here. And not being a vago on the street.
No seas chola, mija.
No seas una chola. So yeah, so I saw that flyer and I'm like, oh, this looks kind of cool, like working it with like the athletic program at Notre Dame. Like, all right. So I went to the meeting and it was very intriguing. So I started doing it. And the program, I'm not going to get into how the program works because it's complicated. It's like just a lot of steps, whatever. But the point is you start as a volunteer freshman year. And you work a bunch of different sports. You're student manager. You're like helping set up like the fields, like helping set things up, like that kind of thing. Like you're like the ball person on the side. Like you just start off very like low key, but things that need to get done again. So the program is like only 21 actually make it into junior year. It started off like with I think like 100 of us, if I remember correctly. Feels like decades ago. But so I was one of the 21 that made it. And then after that, those 21, like you only work football. You only work with the Notre Dame football, like as a student manager, under the 3 head managers. I feel like I'm sorry, like not centered here. So
no, you're worried about myself. All right, I can fix that.
Okay.
Boom, right. Solo, boom. Look at you.
Dale. You're funny. So no, I'm very long-winded, but again, it's important. So I did this program, and going into senior year, you become the head manager of a sport at Notre Dame.
Okay.
And you rate each other, and the top male and female that get like rated number 1 amongst their peers and like the heads of the program, they get a full scholarship senior year.
No way.
And then they become, you get your first choice in what you want to be a student manager of. So I originally actually chose baseball because baseball's always been like my first love in terms of like watching. But I got rated by my peers the number 1 female amongst my 21 fellow student managers. So I got the full scholarship. I was already on a great scholarship at Notre Dame, which was awesome. They were very generous. But like that, I got that, and then just like a bunch of other perks that you would like the student athletes would. would get. So I became I like the football heads that I had been working with, like they were like, you know what, like baseball is cool, like working with the baseball team, it's awesome, but like if you work football, like trust us, it'll open more doors for you. Like this is Notre Dame football, you know. So I was like, oh, you know what, I didn't, I was like very intimidated by the position, because as a woman I could only be there's three head managers for the football team. Again, this is how it used to be set up. It's not set up like that anymore. But the personnel manager, I was pretty much in charge of the program. Like I was doing all the schedule, like you do all the scheduling for the rest of the program. You're in charge of like I would go to every coach's office before every practice and see like what they had planned for that day. I had the whole practice schedule,
No
and I would
way.
meet with student managers before every practice, like my 21 managers, and then like everybody else that was helping that was younger than that. And I would go through like the whole plan for that day, for like setting up. And you know, it's like, you know, it's not just setting up like a cone or two like in
No,
football.
it's Notre
It's
Dame
like
football.
you have, you know, for any pro, it's just you have all this equipment, everything has to be in place because it's got to go boom boom boom, you know. And if anything goes wrong in terms of like, you know, our responsibility, it would be my fault, you know. So like I had to make sure that like the student managers were all on point for everything, you know. Like so I traveled to every game like on the road. I was at every game at home, every single practice. Like it was a full-time job at while I was a student. Sometimes it felt like I was, you know, like that was number one over me being a student. But of course, I still kept up my grades and everything. So, yeah, I mean, that was like my, I guess, baptism into like working in sports, really. And after doing that, I mean, it was I mean, going to Notre Dame was already like a dream come true. But doing that program was just, it was incredible. It
And
was
that made
really,
you
really
say, I
cool.
want to work
I
in
look back,
sports?
I'm say it again.
That's what made you want to work in sports?
Well, that was what like, I mean, I didn't know I could work in sports before that. And then
Really?
after I did
Wait,
that,
wait,
I'm like,
Eileen, hold on. You're smarter than the average bear here. Like you are like, first of all, you're from Montebello going to Notre Dame. Not many people even know where Notre Dame is at. Like, so you're thinking that way. You're thinking different. You're the all. I saw you. You're
right,
CIF all academic. You know what's up. You got scholarships. No te hagas, right?
right.
But why didn't you know that you could?
Well, I guess I just hadn't really thought about it because I didn't know anybody that I could be like, hey, you know what? Like, that's cool. She like he or she did it. They're Latino. Like I could do that too.
Okay.
I just didn't really think about it. I guess the point is, I didn't really
Okay.
think about it because I didn't know anybody that had done that. So when I
Wait,
got to
what did
Notre
you want
Dame,
to do though? You were a film major. What did you want to do? You want to be like
I wanted to work
Hollywood?
in movies.
You want to be
I
Hollywood
wanted to work
executive?
in like I wanted to work like in production.
You
Like
wanted to run the
something like
studio,
that.
didn't you?
I mean, maybe, you
Yeah.
know, maybe one day. I don't know. But even that, like, I didn't know anybody in the movie industry, but like, I just loved watching movies. So I
Okay.
was like, this is awesome, you know. But I get to Notre Dame and I do this program, and I'm like, this is what I want to do. I want to work in sports. Like, this is
Wow.
awesome, you know, like just that experience of, and you know, like, just they were cool. You know, like my parents would watch every single game, obviously, and I was on the sideline for every game. You know, so my mom would like call me after. Oh, mija, te vimos like, you know, cinco veces ahí estabas parada junto al coach. You know, like
Yeah.
it was
Giving him water.
cool.
You're giving him water, right?
Oh yeah, no, 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 no. Those were the trainers.
The reason I said that is because I said that to you one time. I was like, "Oh, you were the one handing out water," and I wasn't being a smartass.
And I was like, nah.
You got so defensive, Eileen. You're like, "No, I had this, this." I'm like, "Whoa, okay, bro. Like, calmala here, all
Man,
right."
tú sabes.
Yeah,
You're funny. You're
yeah,
funny. No,
exactly.
we were so like during games we were like charting things. We were making sure that everything was fine with the equipment, like obviously on the field, like the pylons, like the
Everything.
marker
Yeah.
things, like just everything. Like the field goal nets, pulling them up. I mean, all the stuff you don't think about. You know, there's people that is doing that. At Notre Dame, that was us, the student managers. So I was making sure that everything was going smoothly and things were cool. But no, it was fun. And I, you know, doing that, I was like, I want to work in sports. And
And
baseball was always like my number one, my first love, like
so,
watching.
what'd you do?
So after that, so one of the other head managers with me, who's like, one of my homies. He's like a brother to me, Brian. He's actually with the Mets now in scouting, but he really wanted to work in baseball too. But like Brian had been like writing letters from like since he was like in seventh grade to like GMs, and he was like zoom boom, And I'm like, Dad, I need to be doing, like I gotta jump on this. Like I gotta start looking out there, And so like the people on staff that had like connections, like I was just kind of like, hey, can you help? But people say like, oh, I'll help you, and then
Yeah.
nada.
Uh-huh.
So I was like, all right, I got to do this on my own, and that's fine. I had been, you know, doing everything on my own before that, like in college and all that. So I started, I graduated with nothing set up, but I was applying. And I graduated in 2010 when, you know, the economy was really,
Yeah.
really bad, like 2009, 2010. So it wasn't like there was like 100, just all these jobs everywhere. So it was a tough time to graduate. Just like right now is a tough time to graduate for students, So I feel I mean, it wasn't a global pandemic like
Yeah.
when I graduated. But I feel for everybody graduating right now. But no, I was applying to everything. Sports, not only in baseball. I applied to, I remember interviewing something here at the Clippers, like in ticket sales. Like I didn't want to get into ticket sales, but like people were like, you just gotta put yourself out there, apply to everything and anything. Like it is what it is. It's just like about getting your foot in the door. So that's what I was doing. I interviewed different things, but the Astros, I applied to market development intern was the position, and they were looking market development. I don't think it exists with them anymore, but it was just like essentially like a combination of marketing, PR, like media relations, just like for Spanish speaking people. So it was like a lot of translating, like helping like the Spanish speaking radio guys, like just a bunch of different things kind of into one. So I interviewed, and I mean, Houston, not close, right? But hey, you got to go where the job is, right? And that's what people just kept telling me, just go where the job is. The problem is that, at that point I had like no money, like it was just a very, very tough time economically, like me, my family, just
Yeah.
everything in general. So um luckily, thanks to an awesome, amazing family friend, her sister lives in Houston. So I got the internship. I guess I got the internship, but I was just like, how do I make this unpaid? I'm like, how do I make
Mm-hmm.
this work? I don't have
Mm-hmm.
money. I can't pay rent. you know, like
You're
there's
a
nothing
you're a
that I can
college
do.
graduate with no job, and no money, and I'm willing to go anywhere. And it's like, hey, here's a great internship with the team, free.
No money. You're not making anything. Hmm.
And
So,
you didn't even hesitate, did you? You're like, all right, I'm gonna make it happen.
well, my parents were like, "You're crazy. Like, what the heck?" And I'm like, I know, and they're like, we can't help you. Like they felt really awful about it, but like and I'm like, it's fine, I'll make it work. Just trust me, trust the process. Like I'm like, they don't want my parents didn't want me to go to Notre Dame because they didn't know what it was. And I mean, their daughter is gonna go to school in Indiana. Like what? So like my high school had to convince them like you should let her go. And then now like my dad has a Notre Dame hat on like every other day, like it's but I was just like you guys trust me. Like you trusted me on Notre Dame. Trust me on this one. We'll
Mm-hmm.
figure it out. Like it'll be fine. So our great family friend, her sister lives in Katy, Texas, which is a suburb like 40 minutes away from Houston. So I ended up I was just like, all right, I'll live with them. And there was like a bus that would go from Katy to Houston, and it would drop you off like really close to the ballpark. So that's what I did. I
Wait,
took a
wait, wait, wait,
Greyhound
wait, wait,
bus.
wait, 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 wait. Not that's what I did. You went to live with a stranger?
They so The family friend, she's like, we've known her for so many years, and
Okay.
like it's her sister and her sister's family, like her husband, their kids, like it, and they had an extra room because her mom had like a room there, but her mom wasn't there at the time, like, so they were like, stay here, like
Okay.
I had known this, what, like, the family friend here in Norma. Shout out to Norma, you're incredible.
What's up, Norma?
um yeah, she's the best. But we've known her for a very long time. Her
Okay.
her kids went to our elementary school, to St. Benedict.
All right.
And one of them is like one of my younger sister, Cassandra, is one of her best friends.
All right, but still
So
though,
we
you
know
get
each
what
other.
I'm saying though. Like, hey, I'm
Oh,
gonna
it's
go
crazy.
move.
I know, right?
You don't have a car, so you're gonna take a bus.
I didn't have a car, so well, I didn't even fly to Houston. I took a Greyhound bus to Houston. Yeah. I have never gotten on a Greyhound bus since then, by the way,
No, you shouldn't.
because
You
because
shouldn't.
it was I mean, I grew up taking buses all the time. Like, we would take buses to Mexicali, like, because
Yeah.
my dad's from Mexicali, and we would go on the bus. Like, it was fine.
Okay.
And
But the
then family
Greyhound,
would pick
a
us up, like,
Greyhound across half of the country, it's a little
to
dicey.
Houston. I know, it
It's
was really weird. It was very. I've been in some weird situations, but that was like one of the weirdest ones.
you're
And
chasing
then
your
it ended
dream.
up like taking a weird route too. It was weird. And then it took 8 hours longer than it was supposed to. So I was supposed to get there like Sunday at like 2 p.m. or something. And I was starting my internship, mind you, on, you learn as you go, right? Don't travel to the place that you're going to start a job at the day before. But I ended up getting there 8 hours later. And this family that I've never met is picking me up. And I felt so bad because it's like 10 p.m. on a Sunday. Like, and then I'm not even gonna, Greyhound ended up like not, how do you lose maletas on a bus? But I transferred, and apparently they didn't put, it was a disaster. I'm not gonna get into all the other
Your
details,
sports
but
career is off to a great start. It's off to
wasn't it?
yeah.
Wasn't it? So yeah, they picked me up, and then I started my internship the
But then
next day. Like,
you gotta take a bus 40 minutes to get to work. Like,
yeah, yeah. So
Eileen, like a lot of your friends who graduated from Notre Dame that same year will probably got themselves a nice job in Chicago, living in Wrigley, doing marketing, doing a bunch of other stuff. It's like, hey, I'm a Notre Dame alumni network. It's like, hey, you could do this, go to New York. You're on a freaking Greyhound chasing a job you don't even know exists for a position you don't even know what's going on in an industry you didn't want to do 4 years before that because you wanted to be in Hollywood. So you're going opposite. What the hell is going on in your head when you're like your first day of the internship, you're on another bus, like,
yeah,
and you're working for free.
working for free. Yeah, crazy, right? I was really tired. I remember being really tired after traveling across the country on a bus. Yeah, it was crazy, but I after doing the football thing, I was so convinced that, like, this is what I wanted to do.
Okay.
That sometimes I still have like thoughts of like, damn, like, what if I would have gone the Hollywood route? Like, and I still watch a lot of movies, and I'm like, oh, it'd be really cool to see, my name. Like, but I did this Notre Dame football thing, and I was just like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Like, this is what I want to do. So, like, a lot of weird experiences, but when the internship, I got there, and I mean, I just, I've learned that at this point in my career, I've learned that, like, you know what, you shouldn't feel lucky for where you are. You earned it, um, although a lot of it is right place, right time, and a lot of
Yeah.
it is still a bit of luck. It is. I'm not gonna lie, but at the same time, you put yourself in these positions, with your hard work. So, at that time, I just felt lucky to be there.
Yeah, but at
Like,
the same time, you take advantage of opportunities because there are a lot of people who've been like, "Oh, it's not paid. I ain't going. Oh, I don't have anywhere to live. I'm not going. I'm not doing
right,
this. I'm not doing that."
right.
Instead, if just give me a little bit, give me an inch, and I'm gonna find a way to make it happen. So,
And I was again lucky because I had family, friends
yeah,
there too. I don't, if I didn't have anybody there, and I'm very grateful to them too. Karina and Abraham, another shout out, who I live with them and their kids, that they're incredible people. And if they weren't, it's again, it's just like a little bit of luck too, you
Yeah.
know, that I didn't know them. Like if I didn't get connected to them, I don't think I would like, where else would I
Yeah.
live rent, you know, like essentially rent free, you know, like
You
it's
didn't have
just
any
people
doubt,
that you meet along the way that are incredible, you
but you
know.
didn't have any doubt of what you were doing.
You have your doubts, you know, about like, I'm a psycho for doing this.
Yeah.
uh, but you know what? Then like, you know, I loved going to work every day, you know, like, and I ended up, there ended up being an intern, with me that was also coming from Katie. So whenever she had like the same schedule as me, like when she was going in at the same time, she would like, I would carpool with
Okay.
her. So it wasn't the bus every single day. When I
But you
after I
took
met
advantage
her.
of the opportunities. So that internship led to what?
So in that internship, one of my fellow colleague interns, he had applied, he had applied to a position with the Detroit Tigers. The Tigers were looking for an entry level media relations coordinator, that spoke Spanish. That was like the most important thing. So I had only been at my Astros internship for like, at this point, like 2 months, I think. I started at the beginning of September. It was like their fall internship. So I had been there around 2 months, and you know, it was fun. I was feeling comfortable. It was gonna end at in December was when it ended. So Jeff told me about this position, and he's like, you know, I know that you're kind of like, you know, now that you've been here, like you think that media relations might be kind of like a good fit for you. The Tigers are, you know, I applied, I interviewed, I didn't get it because I don't speak Spanish. But I think you should apply, you know. And I'm like, ooh, I don't feel ready for this, you know. Like I just I number one, I was still in my internship. So I was like, this is kind of like rude to my, but I talked to my supervisor, and she's like, no, you're crazy. Apply, stop. But you know, again, you're learning, and you know, I was like a little baby. I didn't know,
Yeah.
like, you know, I'm just kind of trying to be respectful. But so he convinced me. He was like, you should apply, like, trust me on this. They're like, they've been looking to hire this position for like a few months, and they haven't found anybody. So I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm just gonna do it. Detroit. Whoa. But
Yeah. Um,
crazy, right?
Not Hollywood.
Um, not Hollywood. Not Hollywood. So I applied. I reached out to the so he had already done the whole process, right? Jeff is his name. Jeff had already done the, shout out to Jeff. I'm giving all these shout outs to people.
Go ahead, Art LeBeau,
Um
go for it.
but Jeff, no, so Jeff gave me like the HR contact, all that. So I emailed like, the HR person, just to give her heads up, like, hey, I'm gonna be applying to this. I just want to make sure that like I'm doing this correctly, blah blah. So I sent her my resume to everything. I heard back from her like right away, like the next day. And she's like, oh, we're very interested in speaking to you, like, blah blah blah. So I'm like, okay, you know, like when can we, so we scheduled like a phone call. um and actually, uh I look back on this and I'm like, I don't know how, just from like everything before that, but I think that I was feeling like really, like all of my friends were going back to like Notre Dame for football games and all that. um and it was sad, you know, like I wanted to go back too. You know, like it was like really, I feel like at this point it was like, you know, like it's October. Um and there, I don't know how, like I don't even remember how this happened, but um like I ended up like finding like a really really cheap flight, like to like Cleveland or so. I don't even, again, I don't remember. But I ended up like just making it work and going to a game. Bad decision looking back. Like, Eileen, you have no money, and the little money that you have, like, you're spending it on like, pero, you know, whatever. So I told the lady like, hey, I'm gonna be in like South Bend, like, cause they wanted an in-person interview,
Uh huh.
but they weren't gonna like fly out like an entry level position, like. So I was like, I'm gonna be in South Bend, like I'll like figure out a way to get to Detroit. And if that works for you guys, like I'll be there in a few, like I think it was like in 2 weeks or something. Again, like it's just crazy how things work. So they were like, that's perfect. Yeah. So I went to the game and then I swung by Detroit.
How? How do you swing by Detroit?
I think that like I think that a friend of mine was driving to Chicago and there was a bus. Like those double decker buses, the ones that are like really, I forget what they're called.
Does your dad know this story? Does your mom know these stories? Because me as a parent, I'm hearing this, and I'm like, "Ay, mija." Like, I'm just like,
No, yeah, they, you know what? For this, like, for me going back to South Bend, like, they were able to like scrape something together and like,
yeah.
because they were like, and looking back, I feel like a spoiled brat, like, um, even like making them feel bad about it, like, because I wasn't trying, I was just like, like my friends are,
My friends are
and I think
there.
like they just felt really bad, and they were like, look, just
We'll figure it out.
here's a little bit, whatever, and just figure out the rest type thing. And then this interview. No, I mean, my parents they were on board. Like that's the thing. Like my parents, they may not. Um, they're from Mexico. They don't speak English. Like they don't fully understand a lot of things like here, but they've always been very supportive, like of like everything. So even if like things like may seem crazy, but and it's taken convincing. I'm not gonna say that right away.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, vete, no. It takes a lot of like, it's taken a lot of convincing, but they once like you get them on board, they're like, you
Yeah.
know what, trust you.
So,
We trust
yeah,
you to know
that's
what
the
you're
thing
doing.
because a lot of the people you graduated with, because look, to go from Montebello to Notre Dame is a culture shock. South Bend is a different world. You saw snow
Hmm.
for the first time, probably. You had to get a winter outfit, like all that.
Yeah,
There were no tortillas. There's no there's no real tacos. Like it's
not good ones, not good ones. There were some, but not good ones.
if it ain't good, it's not enough for me. I'm gonna
That's
be
true.
spoiled.
You're right.
But anyways, but like
You
you had a lot of friends who were like, "Oh, I'm gonna do this. My dad's gonna fly me out here. My dad's gonna call an internship here, or his fraternity brother, whatever." It's they have the resources and support, and that's the reason. Like
exactly.
in our industry, a lot you don't see that many Latinos because we don't have that support. Like I said, we have the same background as far as parents. So like, my mom's gonna walk in right now, still wondering. She thinks I talk to the computer. She thinks I'm like losing it right now because I'm talking to myself. She doesn't understand the millions of followers that I got right now. Same with you. Your parents are like, Mika's not a chola, but I don't know what she does. It's like I,
Right.
I, en qué trabaja? I don't know. Like she works for a team.
Hmm.
What does she do? Takes tickets. Like I don't know. Limpia. I don't know. Right? Like that's because
Yeah.
those are the jobs that we see our people doing.
Hmm.
Right? Like behind the
Right.
scenes, like doing that. They're not there. You go to the Tigers, you
Right.
crush it, and they're like, "Hey, let's go, Aileen. We're gonna give you a job."
Yeah. I mean, I
Yeah.
went.
Nice.
I interviewed for a full day. I remember, like, I met so many people. Um, I remember my like the director of media relations, Brian. I remember we went to like lunch, and I was so nervous that like I was like eating, whatever. I never like I'm a person that like I usually eat all my food. Like I never have leftovers. So,
Wait. You
but I was talking
wait.
so much, right? Que estaba comiendo, whatever, and like I left all my salad. So I they boxed up my salad, whatever, and I ended up leaving the salad there. Like I didn't even take it with me. Like I was just, so like just out of sorts or whatever. And then we were walking away, and then Brian was like, "Hey, you forgot your salad," and I'm like, "Oh man, yeah, I did." I'm like, God, I look like a tonta. This girl can't even remember her salad. Like, okay. But anyway, no, it went great. And then they like the final, I guess, part of the interview was somebody calling me from like the baseball operations department that spoke Spanish, like Gio. He called and he's like, "Hey, this is the last part of the interview. I just need to make sure that you actually speak Spanish." So he Yeah, yeah. I mean, because I guess they had people that like said they spoke Spanish, and then they did the geo test, and then they like clearly didn't speak
Okay, all
Spanish,
right. So he's speaking
or
Spanish to
not.
you,
They didn't speak Spanish well.
well
They
enough to
just
do the
kind of
job.
right, right. So I did that. It was just, he would like pretend he was a reporter, and he's like translate my question as a reporter, and then translate the answer. I'm like, all right, cool.
Oh, because you were going
So
to be
we
doing
did
player
like two,
translations.
because it was going to be a part of it, but like that was just
Oh,
his test, just to make sure
okay.
that
But
that I
what kind of
understood
Spanish was he
Spanish.
speaking? Is he
Uh,
Mexican, Dominican, Cuban, Puerto
no,
Rican?
Gio's background. I think
Because
he's Cuban. I didn't
oh,
know
that's
that,
hard.
but no, but his Spanish is real. Like it's not like crazy fast. It
Okay,
was
all right,
like
all right, all
I
right, all right.
completely because yeah, no,
Because you speak
yes,
Mexican
like
Spanish, you speak Chola
oh,
Spanish.
I didn't until my time, with the Tigers. I'd never been around like Venezuelans. Like I had never been around Puerto Ricans. I'd
Yeah,
never been around Dominicans. Like ever, I only knew Mexican Spanish, and that
yeah.
was
You,
it.
you, you went
So
from carnal to huepa to chamo to mi pana, all that
mi
stuff.
pana,
Mi
pana,
pana,
yeah,
dale, all that
yeah,
sort of stuff. See, you still got a little dale
all of
in you,
it, all of it.
because that's a big
Yeah,
thing.
no,
People are like, yeah, it's
it's
hard.
different. It's different. Yeah. So after two questions, Gio was like, "You speak Spanish. We're done."
That's
So like,
awesome.
yeah. And then a few days later, they offered me the job.
And then you pack up
With
Texas and you're going to
no
Detroit.
money, but hey, whatever. It
That's
is what it
cool.
is. So yeah, I talked to like my supervisors at the Astros, and they were like, "Yeah, you
You
gotta
gotta
go.
go.
You gotta take this. Like
See,
this is amazing. So they
but
were
the
very
thing is with
supportive.
that is you had the right attitude from the get go. Like, all right, I'm gonna take a Greyhound bus across half of the country. I'm gonna live with people I don't know. I'm gonna take another bus to go to work. I'm gonna apply for a job in Detroit. None of that is glamorous. None of that is I'm gonna do here. I'm not working in L.A. I'm not working in New York. I'm not in Boston. It's look. I've
Hmm.
never been to Detroit, and I'm okay if I never go. Like I'm okay with it. Like it's cool. I mean, I'm gonna go eventually because I'm gonna go to all the stadiums. But I'm okay if I don't have to go to the city.
You
You
should.
know, yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. I've been to the Detroit airport,
It,
and I'm like, cool, gone. But as far as like
yeah.
living there as a young Latina in that town, like not
Hmm.
exactly the most
Hmm.
enticing. But you also had it seemed like you had the attitude of I don't care. I'm chasing a dream. I'm gonna go after it. I want to
Hmm.
work in sports. I'm cool. Just give me an opportunity. Is that what you were thinking?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you know what? In LA, we're blessed to have a lot of teams, right?
Yeah.
But there's still only a certain number of teams. I mean, really, there's only one baseball team in Los Angeles proper. And then there's the Angels that are in Orange County. Then we got, the Padres down in San Diego, and the A's up north, and the Giants. But here in LA, in Southern California, right here, we only have two baseball teams. So to me, it's like, if I want to work in baseball, I gotta go, especially at that time, because I had kind of like figured out media relations was probably what best suited me, and seemed just the coolest to me in general. That was it's like you go where the opportunity was, and it's in Detroit. I mean, did I picture myself going back to the Midwest, outside of going back for Notre Dame football games, like, once a year? Not really. But I mean, I love LA. I like am always repping wherever I go.
Mm-hmm.
I love being here. It hasn't been easy being away from like my
But
family and my
Eileen, there's a lot of people who are like,
but
I'm not gonna do that.
right. No, because it's hard. It's really hard. But I knew what I wanted to do. And I was kind of like, and I had my family, even though like it was hard for my parents too, but they were just like, Mija, just the sky's the limit, So I'm like, you know what? I got my parents' support, even though they don't really fully understand it. And I'm just gonna figure it out, make it work however I can, and I'm gonna go wherever there's a job. And the job was in Detroit.
Now,
That was
now I'm asking this: you work in PR and you have an important role with that team. You're super young, younger than probably most of the players, um, and you're gonna go and do the job. And if you mess up, they're gonna get after you quick. How scared were you?
I mean, it was terrifying. It was it was terrifying. I mean, so I started in November. I believe my first day was November 8th of 2010. But so it's the baseball off season. Um so I had, like a few months to kind of like just do like the off season stuff, I guess, before like actually starting like being around the players and like being around that environment in spring training. So I had a little bit time to settle, but yeah, no, it was terrifying. I mean, just like everything's been like, going to Notre Dame was terrifying. Like
Mm-hmm.
uh, being one of the head student managers for the football team was terrifying. I didn't want to do it. But like because you don't think, I guess, you're like capable of doing things because you've never seen people around you do them,
Yeah.
like in your immediate circle, like, or just any, I guess,
But Eileen, also at the
so you
same
don't
time,
think you're capable of it.
okay, at the same time, if you go back and you look at it, people who work in baseball PR, it's a lot of work. And shout out to everybody who's ever worked in baseball PR because it's a long day. You don't show up when the game starts. You're there at 9 in the morning. You're doing notes. You're doing research. You're dealing with people like me being a smart ass, like, hey, I need parking, like, stuff like that. And you at the same time, you got to deal with your managers and players who don't want to do interviews, but it's your job to facilitate them. You're doing with that. And you got to know baseball backwards and forwards. You got to know what's up. You got to know stats. Most of those people have had an internship in baseball. You had 2 months of doing marketing, and all of a sudden you get thrown in. So to take people behind the scenes, you really had no training to do this job. You had the tools, but you didn't have any like training.
No,
And you
I
were
didn't know anything about the either. Like, I mean, I didn't know anything about the Tigers. Like, I mean, obviously for the interview I prepared.
yeah.
But like I I knew they had Latino players, but I wasn't really like I was a baseball fan and I was
Yeah,
following
but you were a
baseball.
Dodger
And
fan.
yeah, I mean, honestly, like I grew up more. This is really weird, but like I grew up like liking the Angels a little bit more than the Dodgers. But I mean, I liked them. I wasn't like, oh, only, but like I liked the Angels more than the Dodgers.
Okay.
And then when I moved away, I was like, yeah, no, how can I gotta support the hometown team, like. And then at the Tigers, we had like weird drama in some series, like against the Angels, and I was like, yeah, no.
Okay.
I'm like, and it's like Dodgers are NL and we were AL, the Tigers. So
So you didn't know about Lance Parrish?
I mean, I'd heard the name, but like, I wasn't.
Alan Trammell?
Of course, yeah.
Okay.
Alan Trammell. Yeah.
Lou Whitaker?
Yeah.
Sweet Lou?
Yeah, Sweet Lou. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
It's names that you've heard, like you've heard them as a baseball fan, but you don't know them the way that like names like Fernando Valenzuela.
Yeah.
Like because these are names that you grew up with, like that
but,
you hear.
But now, Aileen, now you're the rep of the company.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude,
you learn on the fly.
I love it. I love this about you because you just got that. Just give me the job. I'm gonna make it happen, and you did. And you rose through the ranks. You became the director. All that other good stuff. But now let me take you down memory lane, Aileen, because we're not getting into the boring stuff of what your life is at, all that other stuff, because you're there. All right, Aileen Villarreal. Ready for these pictures? All right.
Oh, geez.
Here we go. Speaking of salty white guys.
Stop.
I know. Jim Leland, manager of the...
that man.
Was he your first manager?
He was. And he'll tell you that if you meet him. He'll tell you that he broke me in.
Really? Now,
yes.
Jim Leland,
Awesome.
for those of you who are like, oh, I don't really know, one of the best out there, old school baseball manager, World Series champion. It was cool. Whenever he was in town with whatever he was at, I'd always just go listen to his pregame. And he would just be talking. And this dude, like, would do it in his office. And he would have, like, his socks, underwear, and a shirt on. And I'm like a young reporter. I walk in and I'm like, yo, bro, like where are your baseball pants at? He was just literally sitting there. He had a cigar, like, around him. Or he would have his drink after the game. And as soon as the game was, he's stripping down. He's like, boom, what's up, guys? What do you need? Like, just... And
Yep, that's
but
Jim.
old school telling stories was awesome about it. Like I don't think I ever interviewed him. I just stood there and absorbed what he was talking about. Because as a baseball guy, I'm like, because I was a baseball guy, right? That's my deal. And I was like, dude, this is cool. Just and I say salty because in the cariño, right? Like,
Oh no, of course, and no, absolutely, absolutely. I feel like a lot of people think he's like this grumpy old man, but
it comes across like it, but yeah,
it comes across like that, but he is like the funniest, like snarkiest, just like
yes,
his basic mind, everything. Like, and his one-liner jokes, like he will walk up to you and just like drop this random like one-liner joke and then just start cracking up at his own joke, and then you laugh too because it's funny, and then he just walks away. Like
yeah.
he's the best. Like
He,
I loved. He's still with the Tigers organization, and I still work with a lot of Tigers. So luckily,
oh, that's
I
cool.
still stay in touch with him. I still see him. He's awesome. But yeah, no, that was during intros. In the postseason, there's like before game one at the respective location of the postseason series,
Yeah.
like the players line up for like the intros. So who's in charge is making sure they're all acomodados and making sure that they're good
Is that
to
why you got that
be in
face?
order.
Is that why you got that
The
face?
PR people. Oh yeah, so I was super stressed. So yeah, yeah, I was super stressed, and I'm like, oh my gosh, because it's like uh, it's how many the 25 man roster plus like the staff and all
The
that. It's
staff.
like 35 grown men. It's not easy to get them
And then you got Jim Leland.
situated.
And the best was like,
And Jim Leland,
yeah,
who's
it,
stressed, like
yeah.
to say because he's about to start a series, a postseason series.
So
So
Leland would smoke cigarettes during games. Like we never saw it, but like the stories are that he would smoke cigarettes like between the innings. He'd go back and have his heaters, but the TV cameras never heard it, right? So the old
yeah,
school writers would always talk about, oh, he would go smoke his heater, and he's like, fuck, you guys care about that? Like I mean, like just like little stuff like that. But it was like this. This is like like cool because I would go when you guys would come to Anaheim. The
hmm
Angels clubhouse is big, but the
yeah,
visiting manager's office is tiny, and
yeah.
you'd
It's
have to
it's
go in
weird.
there,
Yeah,
and there was a desk there, and it was like a little wall, and I would never get
I
in
would
there.
imagine.
Yeah, and it was
Yeah.
it's like Detroit. You guys only had like two writers, maybe like one TV camera, whatever. So you had enough rooms. I would just stand there, and he would just sit there before he said, "Fuck! All right, what?" As he said, and now it's
That's
just
Jim.
different. It was different. Like
Yeah.
George Carl was like that in the NBA. Don Nelson. It was like the old school guys. Was
Right.
it Don Nelson once?
Right.
He he was coaching Sacramento, I think, and we're playing the Clippers, and he goes and cracks open his beer, and he's just talking to the three people talking to him. And a TV camera comes on. It was you're gonna fucking ruin my post game beer. All right, give me a fucking cup. I need a fucking cup because this TV camera wants to do an interview, and I'm not gonna let this beer go to waste. I'm like, this is awesome, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's what I
It's
miss about
real.
yeah.
Yeah,
And now everything's controlled in the Zoom and this and that, and it's like
I
you have your
know.
Gatorade product placement. It's cool, but like that kind of interaction, and I guess because I'm getting older, I appreciate the saltiness. But it's adding the cariño, right? Like Ozzie Guillen too. As Ozzie Guillen with his 1 year with the White Sox, he came down and somebody asked him about a guy who was uh, in the minors or hurt, and I was like, "Is he?" He goes, "Is that motherfucker here today?" Like, no. What the fuck do I care? He can't help me win today. And he's like, what the fuck? Blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, holy fuck, what's Ozzy doing? And they're like, oh, no, that's his good friend. They go back and forth. Him and that reporter go back and forth. I'm like, but Ozzy realized that there's a bunch of new media here today, so he's just trying to scare you guys.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, damn,
That's
that's
hilarious.
the kind of stuff that as a young reporter,
Yeah.
you got to get taught like that stuff. So
Right.
it's
Oh,
cool.
for sure, for
Yeah.
sure. No,
All right.
I feel like Jim was perfect
So,
as my first manager.
all right.
Very perfect.
Why do you say like that? Because now tell the Jim Leland story. Like, why do you think he was just helped you? Because he probably could have scared a lot of people off.
Yeah, but like, I mean, somebody like Jim's been in the game for so long. Um, like even though you, I mean, even though you like you're in this different kind of job. Like even though because so 2013, that's when that picture is from. That's the year that I became media relations director. Like I got promoted, and
You became la patrona.
I think like I became la patrona that year. It was crazy. But that's the year that it happened. And Jim was one of my biggest supporters. Like, which
That's
was
cool.
awesome. Because that too, like, talk about terrifying. Like, that there was reshuffling with the Tigers, like in the organization, and our director ended up switching to traveling secretary, and then the guy that was the manager above me, like there were three of us, was our intern. It was just me and him for a few months, like because this happened at the beginning of the season in April of 2013, and then the manager guy quit like 2 months into the season.
No.
Yeah. So I was already like just stressed and overwhelmed because I had only been in that job I had only been coordinator for, 2 full seasons, really. Not really. Like I'd only been in that 2 full seasons, like 2011 and 2012 as coordinator. And then this happened, the reshuffling. So I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm going to, my role's really going to expand. Like that's awesome, but it's terrifying. Like I was going to start, like I was at that point, I would travel during the postseason. But I wasn't traveling. Like I was lucky. I came into like this really good team, and we would go to the postseason every year. Like, wow.
Damn.
But like I wasn't traveling, and so I was gonna start traveling with the team, like all that. So that's overwhelming. And then that guy quits, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, so it was me, and then this girl that had been our intern, that was like in marketing. She ended up like kind of switching over and like helping, and then our intern, but we just kind of figured it out like
Dude,
that season, and I ended up getting promoted. Like it was, I felt like I was drowning that whole year, and we
but you couldn't show it either.
No, we couldn't show it.
Wow.
But you just had to be. But yeah, I felt like I was drowning that year, and I honestly didn't want the director position. I didn't because I was like, I just want to, like, I'll be the number 2, and like, that's cool.
The director's the main person. Like, the
director's the main person, and because we posted the position,
and Leland's the one saying you should do it.
Well, so the position was posted, and I remember we interviewed candidates, and I had already gone promoted to manager. I don't remember when I got promoted to manager, but it happened at some point. But we were interviewing. Like we brought in, I think 2 or 3 candidates, and they spoke to, like just to our GM, who Dave Dombrowski, at the time, like our VP of communication, like, so they, they did the whole process, right? And I remember somebody had the conversation because I didn't apply because I was like, I'm good, like
hold up. You didn't apply for the job you got?
Well, I didn't do the formal.
No, you didn't. But you're like, I'm not doing this. I'm not applying. I'm not doing this. And then you end up getting the job.
Because I was like so overwhelmed from that season. Like Good. I was so burnt out, and like I just.
But that's other people believing in you, though.
An incredible team. Like this is a really good team. That there were a lot of media requests for them. There was a lot going on all the time. Jim Leland was my manager. David Dombrowski is my GM. Like, so there was just a lot going on all the time. So it just, I kind of wanted to just, do this, the manager job and like learn more, like in that position with somebody else, kind of like, even though my VP of communications, like he's incredible. He's like a father figure to me. Like he got me through.
But Aileen, it's baseball. Next person up. Let's go. And it's
right.
That's what it was. That's what it was for you.
Again, you know what, Beto? Again, right place, right time. There's always a little bit of luck involved, but you also have to work really hard.
But also, if they give you that job and you suck at it, they're going to be like, okay, you know what? We made a mistake. Let's send her back down to the minors. No, instead, you keep showing up. Aileen, now let me ask you this, though. The Showbird, right? You get on the chartered plane, first time, right? A few years before that, you're on the pinche Greyhound that's just 8 hours late. You have no money. The first time you get onto the chartered plane and you're going to go stay at the Ritz, what was that like getting on there?
It was really cool. I guess I had gotten the experience like when I was with doing the Notre Dame football thing, like when I
Yeah,
was traveling,
but
but it was different because it it was a huge, it was like a really big group of people. I mean, a football team is a lot of people, and then all the staff and like the athletic department
yeah.
people. It was
Eileen,
just like,
Eileen, yeah. It's Notre Dame. We get it. It's amazing. Play like a champion. But now,
I know, but I'm
but
just
but
prefacing it,
yeah,
like,
yeah. But
go ahead,
now,
go ahead.
Eileen, you get on there as I'm the director. Fool, what's up? Like I belong here. Come on.
Yeah, yeah, it was crazy. I mean, my first road trip on my own, like because like my road trips with in the postseason, I was just like there to help.
Yeah.
Like I was there as like because there's just a lot going on. But my first road trip as like the one in charge, yeah, that was scary. That was really scary.
Uh,
Because Jim was mañoso. He had his things. Like you can't like you couldn't talk to the like media couldn't talk to the players during BP like until they were
yeah. Up.
completely done.
Mm-hmm.
Other teams like the media couldn't talk to the players whenever,
Yeah.
or the media could walk up to like the cage during
Yeah.
BP batting practice. Jim, nope. Like
Old
he'd be
school.
like, "Who's that media person? Go tell him to get like in his gym, like get out of here, like that kind of thing." And so it was just there was a lot of that, and there were just a lot of that again. Like that's why going back to like learning under Jim, it's like there's all of these strict guidelines that you just have to be like boom, boom, boom. And with Jim and Dave, like that, it's like you're with these like seasoned professionals
Yeah.
that that like it's their way, but like it's great in a sense for you because it's just like I'm really like boom, boom, boom. This is what I have
Yeah.
to do. I have to point 24/7, like no messing around. And that's the best environment to learn in. Like
Yeah.
as opposed to like something like relaxed or
Yeah.
like that. It's like oh whatever, it's fine. No, like in that environment, it was just like boom, boom, boom.
There's standards.
And
They're setting
there's
standards for you.
very and they're higher like they're more strict rules. I feel like than in some other organizations that I would
Yeah.
see. And like, I'm not saying that in a disrespectful way. It's just that they had their way of doing things, and
Yeah.
that's how it was. And you respect it because they've been doing it for a long time.
Now on the back to
so
the
it's
plane
great
though,
to
Eileen.
learn.
Back to the plane. Come on, because
The
look,
plane was awesome, Beto.
look, I'm never gonna be on a charter. People listening to this are never gonna be on a charter. Tell them you don't even touch your luggage, right?
I mean, you like wheel it in too.
But because when I do the podcast,
You bring it and then you blow it. You take it. You get to the ballpark and you park, and then you go and give it to like the clubhouse staff, and then they load it onto the truck, and then you don't see it until
your room.
the hotel. And
So
until
like you're so humble about this, right? You don't want to sound like you're bragging, right? But when we do the Let's Go Ricky Road podcast, which is on hiatus right now, we do it in the off season. Everybody we have on as a player, we always ask them the first time they went on the plane, and what did they wear? The first suit that they wore, and they're like, "Oh man, I didn't know I had to wear a tie." Guys are like, "I was carrying my bag," and they're like, "No, bro, this is the big leagues. You just leave your bag and it shows up in your room." Like guys didn't know that you get their own seat. Some guys are like, I didn't know that you didn't have to pay for the food on the plane. It's different now because now everybody is like flossing. Everybody's doing different stuff. But like back a few years ago,
Right.
before social media, guys were like, I didn't know that. One player said, he goes, they give you options on the food. I just said,
oh
they're
yeah,
like,
there's like a menu.
Yeah.
A menu of stuff, and you're like, what?
yeah, one guy was like,
I can have
they,
any of this?
they kept asking him, why do you always get chicken? He's like, well, that's what they say we have. I'm like, they have steak, they have lobster, they have everything else, right? Go back to little Aileen on the bus to Mexicali. If you told her that you're going to be on a private plane staying at the Ritz or the Four Seasons or anything else, you think you'd believe you?
Little Aileen on Inter California to Mexicali. No, I don't think. She would not believe it.
Right?
No.
Like, how did you explain that to your parents? Like, this is what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, I mean, it was hard to explain. Like, I don't talk about things like
I know. That's why I'm asking you, Aileen. That's why I'm bringing it out of you.
But it's
That's
like my parents, like, like when the first few times, like my mom, like the mom questions, like, ¿Y qué comieron? y, y cómo están sentados. Like all these weird questions. And you're like, why are you asking me this? But like they want to know everything.
Yeah.
Like, ¿qué tenías puesto? Like, just everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like I would describe it to them, and like I mean, they're very proud. Like it's
Of
very
course it is.
inclusive. It's
But like
and my
we come
dad
we
was
come
out there telling all
from
his
yeah.
friends like
So we come from
all the
humble.
experience.
We sorry to cut you off, but we come from humble
No, no,
beginnings.
no.
Your dad, what did he do for work?
Mechanic. My dad was a mechanic.
And your mom?
My mom has always worked like factory
Here,
type
yeah,
like right now she works in like a car seat
yeah,
manufacturing
and
company.
like
She's
blue,
like she's been quality control like
yeah.
in different like
Yeah.
manufacturing
So
type jobs.
blue collar, hardworking, immigrant dreams, all that stuff for their kids to do, and that's why I bring it up to you because you're like me. You don't want to sound like you're bragging about this, but you know how many people are just living vicariously through you with your family of like. This is Aileen chased her dream. Aileen's doing this, and like I said, your attitude and your way. That's why I care about you a lot, Aileen, because you're so humble about where you're at. And you're like, that's just my job, and I'm the same way. I'm like, that's just my job. That's not me. Like, I don't own the damn plane, but that's part of what we're doing. But do you ever? I think because you're so young, do you ever go back and reflect a little bit, like, damn, I'm actually doing this?
Yeah, I just had this conversation like a few days ago with a coworker, but like I feel like you when you're asked about like what you've done, because like you just keep moving on, right?
Yeah.
And you kind of like you go back and you reflect like once in a while, like you look at photos, you look at things, and you're like, damn, that was crazy,
Yeah.
but you kind of forget it in a way that like until people ask you about it, and then you kind of like just reminisce and you start thinking about things, and you're just kind of like, wow, I did that, huh? Like
Yeah.
that's crazy. And then you think like I think about like what I'm doing now. Like I'm low key, but
Yeah.
like I yeah, it's been a crazy journey. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
and like it's such a my parents came here with the immigrant dream, like for their kids, work their asses off for their kids, like we went to Catholic schools, like I don't like it's like you're like, how did you guys do it, but like they had this dream for us of like, they can do whatever they want. And we have, like me, I mean, my siblings are awesome too. Like I'm doing the sports thing, but like my brother's done Peace Corps, like
Yeah.
he's a teacher in South Central LA, like power to him. It's a very hard job. My sister's been a social worker at a women's shelter. She's living in Hong Kong right now. Loca. Yeah, Cassandra. And then Brianna's at Cal State LA. She's finishing up her schooling. She's also gonna do great things too. Like my parents, like I'm like, how did you guys do it? Like
Yeah.
kudos to Tomas and Nicha. Like they
Shout out,
they
Tomas.
instilled that in us. Yeah. They instilled it in us, and it was just like the sky's the limit, and so even though they weren't able to like help us with our college applications or like with FAFSA or just things like that, we had to go to they were just pushing us like to like just do our best, like in school sports, everything. And they've always been supportive, and that's what I see in a lot of like friends that like the parents like, oh no, you're not going to go that far away, like just because it's like we're Latinos, we're really close, we're close knit, we want to be around our families. But my parents understood that like it's tough to be away from us, but like it's okay to like let your kids go and like be in faraway places to do these cool things, like have these jobs, and then now I'm back home, like my journey led me back to LA. Like it's I'm very fortunate, like now that I'm still in the baseball world, but I'm back home in LA doing it, and now like I'm by my family, and it's like it's awesome,
That's why I wanted you to speak a little bit, because you don't, like, I went creeping through your Instagram and there's no pictures of you working. There's no pictures of you doing anything. I'm like, I mean, your family, great. We love your family. They're awesome. All right, all these great things. But like for the sake of the podcast, I had to ask you to send me pictures so I can show you off of what you've done, what you've been. And you're like, oh, this is cool. I'm like, well, None of this is on your Instagram, Eileen. So like, you're like not the modern person who's like, everything I do, I post everything. You're like, no, or maybe let me post it 5 years later about what you've done. So let me take you down the Aileen Villarreal show. All right, here we go. Who's this? Miguel Cabrera, right? ALDS.
ALDS. I think that was in 2012. So that was ALDS 2012. That's when we went to the World Series. That year we lost against the Giants. But yeah, I mean, a part of that was when I was still coordinator. But even when I was director, I was a part of my job was to be the interpreter translator for the players. So whenever a player felt like Miguel speaks English, but whenever a player felt uncomfortable, like just I was there just in case. Like with Miguel, like I remember I didn't have to actually, if I remember correctly, I didn't have to actually translate anything. But I was there just to make sure, just in case. But there were players that like needed me all the time for interviews. But yeah, that was the year that Miguel Triple Crown.
Good dude, huh?
Good dude. Yes,
good dude.
Yes.
And you still work with him now?
And I keep work. He's one of the Tigers that I still work with. Yeah. So.
I like him. I like him. I've never been around him. Just interviews. That's it. But like that, he seems like he's a good dude. All right, you get to go all dressed up. Award show season.
I think that one's on. I think I did post that one. I think I did. I'm pretty sure that I did. But that's Miguel and Max Scherzer, the MVP and Cy Young Award winners for the AL for that year, and that was at the dinner where they got presented the awards in New York City. So I mean, I had to go, like, as a PR person. Like how could I miss that? So that was a really cool experience. So yeah, no, I was there with them, their families, and I watched the whole. Had dinner, watched the whole award show, watched them do, just the whole shebang. But
yeah, it's
that was cool.
You're around these players more than you are your family. They become your family. So I'm pretty sure that for me as a reporter, like there's some guys that some days you're like, I don't want to deal with him. I can only imagine you as a PR person because you see behind the scenes and it's like, Aileen, leave me alone today. I don't want to do this. Or Aileen, I need this. It's you become the sister to them, the surrogate mom to some of these guys. It's also some of these Latino players that are scared out of the mind because they're in a brand new country and they don't know what to do. Like that camaraderie you build, it's special to you and with a lot of these players, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, like you said, they become your family. At that, when I was with the Tigers and just at the point when I was traveling and all that, I mean, you're around them 24/7. Like, so, I mean, for me, because I speak Spanish too, like, I was helping with the Latino players and their families just with a bunch of other things too. Like, not just like my job. They kind of become like, you become somebody for them to lean on, like, just for the organization, just for many things, because you speak their language. And for the younger guys, you're like a big sister, like a mom. Like, I mean, there was a player that I remember that he got in an accident and he called me, like, and I went to go pick him up. Like,
wow.
It's just things like that like you become like a mother figure, and even though you're like almost there, like some of them, like I was around their age, maybe a little bit older, and a lot of them I was younger than, like for those, like I was kind of helping, like you get to know their wives, their kids, like that kind of thing. So not only are you like the PR person that like, you're going and asking them like to do interviews, or they're coming to you and complaining about something that they got asked, or whatever the case may be, you're organizing the manager's media schedule, like getting the media into the manager's office every day, before the game, post game. You have all this going on, but you also become like a personal help for like the Latino players because you speak their language. And that's a part of the job that like, my counterparts that only speak English, like they weren't, like, yes, they do. I know that things come up that they help with too. Like, I have no doubt. But as a Spanish speaking person, like it kind of opens you up to like everybody.
Same for me. Like, I
That's
mean, there was players who would ask me, like, "Hey, can you help me find this? Can you help me find that?" And I'm like, "Dude,
right.
we're not friends." But it was more so in Anaheim because it wasn't really much
Mhm.
help down there. And we're
Right.
like, we're not friends, but like I can lead you in the right direction of where you can find some stuff. A lot of it was the food. Like after Vlad left, and his mom wasn't cooking, so it was like guys were showing up, like,
Yeah.
"Oh, what's going on?" Like it's just like, where do I go? Because Orange County, you're not finding much like of what you want. LA is a different
Right.
world, but it's just
Right.
those little things. Like I said, I'm not friends with these guys, but you can kind of have some sympathy for them. Like, damn, like I can only imagine
Mm-hmm.
you're coming in,
Mm-hmm.
like, and then all of a sudden everybody's coming after you. Like, so Puig is Puig, but I defended him a lot in the beginning because he would talk to himself about why was everybody after him, and they didn't understand that. He told me one day, he's like, in Cuba we don't talk to media, we don't. You guys, we don't see you guys. They bring us to a room and then we talk to them and they pick who gets to talk. I'm like, I didn't. Then again, it's Cuba. You know, it's just a different
Right.
world in the United States where it's a free for all. All right, now you've actually had some cool experiences. You've been to all the parks, right? So this is one of
Most
the
of them.
cool one right here.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's at
BP
Fenway
at
Park.
Fenway. Batting practice at Fenway.
Yeah. So, my second manager, Brad Osmus, for every year, he would select like a city where we could have like a staff BP, like a staff batting practice. So, that year it was at Fenway Park, which was
That's
super cool. I
cool.
remember the next year. I think the next year was at Wrigley, and I participated in that one too. That was also awesome. But yeah, I mean,
That's cool.
yeah, he opened it up to like all of us participated, like the coaches, the trainers, like the video guys, like all of us. And I think Brad was the one that was like throwing the BP, if I
Yeah.
remember correctly.
Yeah.
But that was super cool. I mean, I batted at Fenway Park.
Yeah, because like the
Um,
Dodgers have the media game, and I would play every year. Like I was like, I don't really want to play, but just to go run around the field at Dodger Stadium, and then luckily I was able to have where the kid Ivana Carrasco, shout out to her, was like, yeah, you can bring your kids on the field afterwards. So I had pictures of myself with Mateo and Michaela when they were little at Dodger Stadium, and I have one shirt that says media on top of the mound at Dodger Stadium. So it's just playing there. You're running around, and you're like, damn, this is actually like the field, like the one you grew up in. I remember looking up, like, damn, we used to sit way up on top, and like, mind you, there's nobody in the stadium. It's like Mario Duncan's lobbing balls in there, but still, though, you're still trying to go yard. It's like just to even go on the field, because how many people
okay.
have never even been on the field at Dodger Stadium? So
Right.
that
Right.
now
Right.
you were what is it? All CIF, right, at Sacred Heart, two-time
Uh,
champion.
yeah, I think I was, yeah. I
Oh,
think I was on one of those teams.
hey, Eileen,
I don't remember. I think it
Eileen,
was
hold
first
up.
time.
Oh, on the podcast, we can lie, right? No problem. You were all
Yeah, for
state.
small league. I'll say no. I really was for small league in softball and in basketball, but basketball we didn't win CIF.
Oh, you're
So
a baller too? Okay. So, but no, you were a
but it
legit
was.
baller.
I mean, I was good. I think that I thought I was better than what I really was,
Don't we all?
but
Don't we
I
all?
was good.
All
I was
right.
like the forward
Yeah, but
for
for softball though, you were CIF champion.
two
Right.
time.
Yep. Because my son played at Cantwell one time, and I took a picture of the banner, and I'm like, "Where's your statue?" But what is this picture of you catching, like
Yeah,
showing your skills, like the PR
it was.
director, like a shag?
Yeah, I mean, there were a few times that like our coaches would. I feel like when they saw that I could catch a ball and like hit, and like because to me, to them, like I'm a woman, and
Yeah.
the inside like that I can't that they don't really know my history fully, I guess.
You don't know my life.
So yeah, you don't know my life, so they don't know that I play. Like they know, but they don't know, in a way.
Uh huh.
So I feel like the first time that like one of the coaches was just like, oh yeah, can you? Maybe it was like one of the times that like we did the BP thing that they finally were like, oh damn, Eileen can hit. Oh what? She can catch? Like what? So every once in a while, like when it was earlier, like, but it would be like a coach would they were like shorthanded or something. and then just be like, oh, put on a glove and like, do this. I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. Um, so
Yeah.
so yeah, that was
With the
that was the
credentials,
with
skirt,
my credentials.
whatever, like glove, lock
I
it, two
probably should
hands.
I probably should have taken off my credentials for that, but
But good
yeah, it was
for
fun. I mean that was fun. It was cool.
the
Because I enjoyed playing sports, like
yeah,
I really really liked playing sports.
yeah.
And I don't want to like lose my um like just the ability of like catching a ball or
Yeah.
hitting or shooting, whatever.
But
So
Eileen, you can hit and throw and catch better than most members of the media. I'll say that. I'll leave it. I'll leave it there. I'm not going to say any names, but they cover a lot of them cover the Dodgers. I'm
noted.
not saying any names, but I'll touch you later. But no, it's that was it's cool to see your journey and where you're going, and you're still starting, and you're barely on the cusp of whatever it is you want to do. Just remember when you are running a Hollywood studio to get me a job. Simple as that. And yeah, I want to be an actor now. I've decided I'm going to be an actor today. All right, because you're gonna be the executive producer of all these shows, so I'm gonna do that.
Ah, okay. All
Uh,
right. All right.
as we wrap up, Eileen, and like you said, we can go on and on and on over and over and over. But one thing I didn't want to harp on is the lack of Latinas in the industry, because I think I wanted more to dwell on how impactful you are. Do you see yourself now as somebody who's knocked down some barriers, somebody who's helping other kids? Because I know you're trying to do. You and I've talked on the side of like how we get more just minorities in general into the sport of helping each other out. But do you see the change coming?
I think I see it a lot more than when I first started,
Okay.
I would say. I think that also now, with things feel more accessible in a sense in terms of like reaching out to people because with social media, with things like LinkedIn, with just programs like that instead of like, pulling out a directory or something and seeing like, oh, who can I reach out to here? Um, people are, I think, more accessible and you're seeing, uh, you can just reach out to people easier, like
Okay.
I have people that reach out to me via like LinkedIn, like students at Notre Dame that want to get into sports industry, like just that kind of thing, where I feel like these resources weren't available, or it's not that resource, but it was just more difficult. I feel
Yeah.
like in a way. So I feel like kids now, with people being more accessible and them being able to just kind of like send a message or something like, uh, I don't know. I just think it's, and you see it, right? Like you see, there's this Latina, like, they have, whatever. You see them, so you can reach out to them,
Yeah.
like, and you
Go
can
do
talk to them
it.
about their journey.
Do it.
And then they know who you are. Like I've had conversations with students at Notre, not just there, but like just people in general that are younger that want to work in sports. And I tell them like, they ask me like, what should I be doing, this, that, and I'm like, you know what, like you having this conversation with me already tells me that you're on the right path.
Yeah.
Like you're out there, you're looking for people to connect with. Like now I know who you are, like we've had a
Yeah.
conversation, I know a little bit of your background. I can have your resume on file, and if there's anything that, like I hear of that you're fit for, reach out to me. So yeah, I mean, and with like Latinos, like again, it's like if you go on, we have the internet, we just have all these things that like you just gotta Google
El
and you
Google.
find
El
people.
Google. It helps you.
Like you find people, and all of, like whether it's teams, the media, agencies, like whatever it is, like you can find all of the people that are doing these things
Yeah.
on the internet. And like it takes research, I get it, it takes research, but you can find these people, and then you find them through Instagram, through LinkedIn, through whatever it is, and you reach out to them, and then you talk to them. And I mean, it's everybody's a lot more accessible now than like 10, 20 years ago. I think you would agree.
Oh yeah, closed mouths don't get fed. That's why I've taken you to speak to different groups. I'm trying to get you involved more when I go to high schools or when we can go to career days. But now that I'm gonna send you. I'm gonna start sending you to schools now. That's it, and that's part. And I'm being serious about it because that's also like
And
what
I'm
we have to
down.
do. Yeah, and I know that.
Yeah,
And it's
because we need to do that. We need to do that. I do it at my high school sometimes. Like
yeah,
I've done at Cantwell. I've like I've spoken at different things.
yeah.
Like I think I had spoke at the open house once. Like
You're a role model.
at
You are.
this other, and it's very humbling, for me. Like it's
Yeah.
very cool that they want me to go and speak to students, but I've I've learned how important that is to see a woman like these not only like these like little girls, these young ladies and young men too, that are growing up in Montebello or the surrounding areas, and the East LA area. They see a woman that like was the director of media relations of a Major League Baseball team. She's at a sports agency now. It's just like just knowing that, and like it's like, oh wow, I can do that too, and like when I was in their shoes, like I didn't get it. It's not that like
Yeah.
I just didn't really understand it. So when that's what like our Latino community sometimes lacks, that there's just not people that are there going like to speak at
Hmm.
schools, to do whatever it is, like mentorship, that like kids that want to do these things, like you can do it too. You just
And that's why I made sure to
you
have
got
you
to
on
take
today.
the road like not traveled. You got to
Yep.
work your ass off. You got to do things that your family's probably never, nobody in your family has ever done, probably.
Hmm.
But you just got to do it, and you figure it out, and you keep moving up. And that's why it's okay to talk to people outside of your family that are doing it, that look like you, that are first generation, that have parents from whatever country it is, like it.
It's closed mouths don't get fed. You talk to people, and next thing you know, 5 years later, they're on your podcast after taking a picture at Notre Dame. There it
Yes.
is. Aileen Villarreal, the pride of Cantwell Sacred Heart. Your dad from Mexicali, your mom's Culiacan, right?
Yeah, outside of Culiacan, yeah.
Yeah, we'll take Culiacan proper.
Culiacan, let's just go with Culiacan.
Oh, okay. Oh, last thing. You were able to do the PR for the World Baseball Classic, correct?
I did, Team Venezuela.
Team Venezuela. Just tell people real quick how amazing it is watching Latino baseball in Latin countries. Like it's different, right? The bat flips are higher.
Yeah, I need to go watch baseball in like the DR one day.
Oh,
Like
I want to.
that's
Yes.
I need to do that. Because but like for WBC Team Venezuela, we played in Guadalajara,
Yeah.
Mexico, and yeah, it was an experience. It was cool though,
Fun.
but it's really fun. A lot of like just different things like in between it's like a party,
Big old party.
but like let's make it fun, right? Like it should be
That's it.
fun.
It is.
Like it's different for us because we're not used to it here watching baseball here. But man, like you go to other Latin American countries,
Crazy.
and like it's a party. People are rowdy, like yelling all the time. They have like weird things like during in between innings, but
They have-
it's fun.
They have
like,
chango. They have the mascots on
it's
the.
like you're going to the club. Like people are dressed like they're going to the club. Like
Yeah, it's a different world. I'm gonna go. We're going to the Serie de Caribe. It could be in Mazatlan. We're gonna go. So. we're gonna-
Mazatlan. I have family there.
All right,
I
so
love Mazatlan.
we're gonna go to the Venado Stadium. It's gonna be people are like, oh, it's the week before Super Bowl, so we're going because I'm a golf influencer now, so I'm gonna go play golf at the country club during the day.
Oh, míralo.
And then,
From Montebello, Mazatlan.
Hey, I did my Montebello tour. That's why I go practice at QC's, girl. Got to take it all day long. Aileen Villarreal, thank you so much for coming on. We've been talking about it for a while. I thought we were gonna go 45 minutes. We did an hour and a half, girl. Like it was just that quick. Yeah, it just flew. That's why I'm like, dude, we're good. Great stories. And I'm gonna tell Jim Leland I know you one day. I'm gonna tell him. And if one last time, if people need to reach out, I'm gonna send this to a bunch of different high schools. Reach out to Aileen Villarreal. Google it. You can find her. It's not that hard. And you know what you've done now, Aileen? All my guys at different agencies now, I'll be like, "What's up? How come you didn't ask me? How come you didn't ask me to be on the podcast? How come you didn't ask me to be on?" Let me tell you this, Luis. Calmado Luis or Louis, whatever your name is, because you're all incognito. But yeah, you can't come on, so don't worry about it, Luis. And you know what I'm talking about. Aileen, adios, gracias. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for having me on, Beto. Appreciate it. Muchas gracias. Cuídate mucho.